Longini, Assistant Secretary to the Chicago Transit Board. The committee meeting scheduled for this morning at starting at 9:30. The Strategic Planning Committee meeting to be followed by the Finance Committee meeting are both being delayed. And the regular board meeting will commence at 10 o'clock this morning. And then the other meetings will continue after that. So at 10 o'clock, the regular board meeting will start. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Morning. I'm Greg Longini, Assistant Secretary to the Board, Assistant Secretary to the Chicago Transit Board. June 1st, 2022, the Office of the Secretary issued a notice of change format of meetings of committees on strategic planning and service delivery, and the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee and the Transit Board meetings, all scheduled for June 8th, 2022. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, there is currently in effect a statewide disaster declaration as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been renewed from month to month since the start of the pandemic. Pursuant to Section 7E of the Open Meetings Act, virtual public meetings are permitted while the disaster proclamation remains in effect. Because of the governor's disaster proclamation remains in effect in the state of Illinois, the meetings of June 8th, 2022 are being held electronically or virtually for members of the public. At this point, we are ready to start the regularly scheduled meeting of the Chicago Transit Board. Chairman.
Good morning. I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Chicago Transit Board for June 8th, 2022. Would the Secretary call the roll, please?
Yes, Director Silva and Director Miller will not be present today. Director Jakes?
Present.
Director Jakes is present remotely. Director Ortiz?
Here.
Director Lee?
Present.
Chairman Barkley?
Present.
A quorum of the board with 5 members present, sir.
Before we begin the meeting, I would like to acknowledge and welcome our new board member, Michelle Lee, who was appointed by Mayor Lightfoot. Director Lee is an accessibility leader and advocate and serves on a number of organizations and boards that advance the rights of people with disabilities, particularly with respect to public transportation access. Some of those include Disability Lead Fellow, member of the city's Accessibility Airport Advisory, member of the Accessible Taxi Cab Advisory through the city's Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, and as some of us may be familiar, the city's ADA Advisory Committee, where Michelle served as Vice Chair. Director Lee has also founded and led employee and business resource groups focused on accessibility and inclusion. She is currently the accessibility lead at Cruise, a self-driving car service. In addition to her impressive advocacy work, Director Lee has a background in finance. She's previously worked global treasury at Aon. On behalf of the board, welcome. We look forward to working with you. President Carter, would you like to say a few words to welcome Director?
Thank you, Chairman Barkley. I think you've done a job of summarizing Director Lee's qualifications to serve on the board, as well as the perspective that I think she will bring to CTA, which is always very much welcomed as we conduct our business. I've had the opportunity to meet with Director Lee on a number of occasions. I know that she's very engaged and is very interested to hit the ground running and to learn more and much about CTA. I think on behalf of the management team and the staff of CTA, we also want to welcome you here as a member of the board and look forward to working with you and certainly hearing your voice as we continue to pursue the initiatives to support the city of Chicago and our surrounding suburbs, the customers that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, President Carter. Director Lee, would you like to have a few words?
Sure, thank you. Thank you both for the warm welcome, and I'm really excited to be working together and making sure that our city is accessible but also just transportation is equitable for everyone. So that's why I'm here, and I'm excited to get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, and once again, welcome. We're going out of order to establish our standing committees to conduct committee business today. So with that, we will now consider board agenda item number 5, an ordinance appointing members and chairs to serve standing committees of the Chicago Transit Board. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
I'm moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Lee. I'll take the vote. Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Chairman Barkley?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 4 yes votes, sir.
Thank you, Greg. We will now recess the regular board meeting to conduct committee business. May I have a motion to recess the regular board meeting at this time?
So moved. Second.
Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Lee. Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Lee,
Yes.
Chairman Jakes,
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 4 yes votes. We are now recessed, sir.
Here.
We have a quorum of the committee with 3 members present. Let the record show that Director Jakes is also here, is present.
Our first order of business today is the approval of the March 9th, 2022 committee minutes. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second?
Moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Lee. Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Director Lee,
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
The minutes of March 9th are approved with 3 yes votes.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing implementation of bus route number X4 Cottage Grove Express. Mike Conley.
Yes, good morning. I'm Mike Conley, your Chief Planning Officer. Staff are recommending implementation of an overlay express bus route on the number 4 Cottage Grove bus corridor. Number 4 Cottage Grove route is a solid, heavily used bus route which connects to the south side and into downtown, as well as providing well-used local service along this vital corridor. This route sees many very long bus trips, which would benefit greatly from express bus service. There are also many riders who utilize this bus for short connecting trips with many ons and offs throughout the length of the Cottage Grove corridor. This combination of patterns suggests an overlay express route while retaining full local service, which is exactly what staff are recommending. Almost half of the current riders board at the potential express stops. This route has very strong non-peak direction ridership, which calls for implementation of bi-directional express service. Go to the next slide. The express route is proposed to operate between 95th Street on the south through the turnback on East Water Street downtown, just south of the intersection of Wacker Drive and Michigan Avenue. The express route will operate with half-mile stop spacing south of downtown. The usual bus route stop spacing ranges from 1/8 to 1/4 of a mile. This will help to speed trips and reduce the travel time for express bus riders by between 9 and 17 minutes, depending on the length of their trip. We can expect that this service enhancement will lead to increased ridership and will fit in well with the current return to transit trends that we've been seeing. The operation of an express route complements the Better Streets for Buses initiative, which we are working on with CDOT. As with other elements of the Better Streets for Buses plan, such as transit signal priority or exclusive bus lanes, express route implementation is intended to improve bus operation, providing improved service for our customers on the bus system. The Cottage Grove corridor is also a part of the Bronzeville Invest Southwest corridor and helps to enhance the other investments which the city of Chicago is putting into place. For CTA, the Cottage Grove route is both a low-income route and a minority route. This reflects CTA's commitment to supporting equity in public transit service provision and the investment of $1.9 million of annual operating funding towards enhancement of bus service on the south side. This map outlines both the local and the express bus routes on Cottage Grove Avenue. The local is out in teal and the express route is shown as a purple line on this map. The red dots that you can see are the express route stops, which, as I've mentioned, are at 1/2 mile stop spacing south of Roosevelt. Staff are excited to bring this south side route improvement proposal to you. I'll be glad to answer any questions which you may have. Thank you.
Well, first, I'd like to commend you on what this new route, the express route. We're glad to see this in an area that is well deserving of this. The volume is very high, I know, on the number 4 bus. So thank you very much for that. Did you get any feedback from the community?
We've heard from people throughout the service area at public meetings that we've had, both the Invest Southwest meetings with the city and others that we've held, that people are looking for improvements to bus service. That's something that people mention, not only to us directly, but also in the survey work that we've been doing.
Any other comments from any other board member?
No, I second your comments in terms of this being a really important route. And I appreciate also the fact that it'll be saving times for the riders who are actually commuting for very long distances into downtown. Thank you.
Quick question. I see that the implementation date is August 22nd. Is there a reason it's after kind of like the summer peak?
Yes, this implementation date is set to be when our next union work pick goes into effect. So at these picks, the operators choose which routes they will drive, and when we need to do our changes in correlation with those picks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. May I now have a motion to place this item on the omnibus and recommend board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Lee. Ms. Ortiz?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Chairman Barkley?
Yes.
The motion is approved with 3 yes votes, sir.
And finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Lee. Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Chairman Barkley?
Yes.
The motion passes, sir, and the meeting is adjourned. And then to the Finance Committee meeting, sir.
I will now call to order the June 8th, 2022 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. The Secretary call the roll.
Yes, Director Silva and Miller are not here today. Director Jakes?
Here.
Director Jakes will participate remotely. Director Ortiz?
Here.
Director Lee?
Here.
Chairman Barkley?
Here.
We have a quorum of the committee with 4 members present, sir.
Our first order of business is the approval of the committee minutes of May 11th, 2022. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Lee. Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Lee, because you weren't here last month, you may wish to abstain on this matter.
I can abstain.
Chairman Barkley?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 3 yes votes, sir, and 1 abstention.
Our next order of business is the finance report. Jeremy?
Good morning. I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer, and today I'll walk through the results for April and year-to-date numbers. On the first page here, you see April revenues coming in on a similar manner that they have on prior months for the first part of the year. You see Farebox is slightly positive, Pass is slightly negative, overall essentially flat, but slightly down to both the amended budget and the original budget. The amended budget column has been added in. As you remember, we added in ARP discretionary and changes to public funding in the amended budget. So we're now reflecting that in both columns here for the amended budget and the original. Reduced fare subsidy continues to come in as expected, albeit at lower levels than what we had historically received in prior years. Non-farebox totals coming in slightly positive to budget by about 1.4 million. And overall, for the month of April, we see total revenues coming in about $1 million positive to both the amended budget and the original budget. But perhaps most importantly is the fact that the variance to April of 2021 is over $9 million to the positive. So we're performing significantly better than what we had this time last year. On the next page, we see year-to-date revenue numbers, again, following a similar form where we see fare and pass totals against the amended budget, essentially flat, but slightly down by about $400,000. The original budget down about $1 million, but overall 21 year to date, we're positive by over $25 million. Again, reduced fare subsidy coming in as expected, albeit at lower rates. Non-fare box totals coming in about $1.5 million positive on both the amended and original budget basis. So overall, year to date through April, we see total revenues about $1 million to the positive against the amended budget, about $400,000 to the original budget. And again, versus 21 year-to-date numbers, we're about $29 million better than where we were this time last year. With regard to our expenses, we continue to keep expense controls in place. We see labor coming in about $9.4 million to the positive on amended and original budget basis. Materials coming in essentially flat, but slightly negative by about $130,000. Fuel and power continue to be strong performers, providing about $700,000 or $900,000 of positive variance on both accounts. Injuries and damages coming in flat, security services slightly positive, and other expenses positive by about $4 million, which leaves us for the month favorable to the amended and original budgets by about $15.3 million. On the next page, we see year-to-date numbers. Again, following a similar form, dropping to the bottom line here, you see total operating expenses to the amended budget, which is a period from April through December of about $15.3 million to the positive. If you couple that with our positive variance on revenues, that has a net impact of $16.3 million positive to the amended budget. With regard to the original budget, which is a January through December look, we see about $48.5 million of variance, positive variance there, coupled with our revenues. It's about $48.9 million of positive variance year to date on our expenses, net with our revenues. On the next page, you see public funding. You see here the receipts for the month. We see about $2.7 million of positive variance on sales tax receipts from February against the amended budget, and about 4.7 against the original budget. PTF continues to perform strongly, outperforming the amended budget by about $600,000, the original budget by about $4 million. RET coming in about $700,000 better than expected. PTF on RET about $500,000, and ICE either flat or up about $100,000 to the original budget. So overall for the month, our collections versus the amended budget are still about 4.5 better than expected, and about $10 million better than expected versus the original budget. On the next page, you see year-to-date numbers. Again, kind of dropping to the bottom line here. You see year-to-date against the amended budget, we're positive by about $5 million, and almost $36 million positive variance against the original budget for public funding. On the next page, you see our federal relief draws. As we've talked about in prior months, we're now showing all 4 grants. The ARP discretionary has yet to be executed by the federal government, but once it is, we will include draws against that grant as well on a monthly basis. In the meantime, we're drawing currently this month against CRISA and ARP for about $12 million. We fully exhausted the CARES funding, and we've drawn down overall about 40% of the overall allocation of funds granted to us. We expect the remaining funds to last through 2024 and into early 2025 based on current projections. On the next page, you see our commodity purchases. We've undertaken a very strategic approach to buying fuel. That has allowed us to lock in about 65% based on a more recent purchase of our 23 volume, as well as volumes for 24 and 5. This has allowed us to lock in at rates substantially below spot rates. We'll continue to look for selective opportunities to purchase additional fuel as we move forward, and we're effectively locked in for where we need to be for the foreseeable future for both power and natural gas. This concludes my report for April. I'm glad to answer any questions.
I have no questions, Greg.
No questions on my end.
No questions.
Dr. Jakes?
No questions. Just a great report, Jeremy. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to proceed to the next agenda item, sir, number 4.
Our next order of business is the independent auditor's presentation for fiscal year 2021. Jeremy.
Thank you. I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer, and I'm joined by our auditors today to discuss the audit results for 2021. Not to steal their thunder, but we did receive clean audit opinions. Christine Torres from Crow will discuss the financial statement audit, and Stella Marie Santos from Adelphia, our DBE partner, will discuss the single audit for 2021. Christine?
Good morning. I am Christine Torres, a partner with Crow, and I'm here with Stella today, our partner from Adelphia, who is our DBE subcontractor in the engagement. And we're excited to be reporting today that we have completed our audit of the December 31st, 2021 financial statements. We were engaged to audit the financial statements to determine that they are reasonably stated in all material respects, as well as to audit the federal grant funds in accordance with the guidelines set forth by the federal government for compliance with laws and regulations. In regards to the financial statement audit, as Jeremy mentioned, it has been completed and the auditor's opinion was issued. And that audit opinion is unmodified or clean, which basically means that the amounts presented in the financial statements and the notes to the financial statements are reasonably stated in all material respects. As required by government auditing standards, we also look at the internal controls over financial reporting to determine if there are items that need to be identified under these standards as well. We do not have any findings to report under government auditing standards. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Stella, who will provide the update on the federal part of the audit.
Good morning. Again, I'm Stella Santos, partner with Adelphia, and I'm representing the DBE partner on the audit. I'm also happy to report that Crow was able to issue an unmodified opinion on compliance with the federal programs for the year ended December 31, 2021. CTA receives a number of federal grant programs. However, based on the federal guidelines, our testing was focused on 2 major programs this year. These programs are the Federal Transit Cluster and the TIFIA Loan Program. Due to the size of both of these programs and the inclusion of the CARES funding within the Federal Transit Cluster, we had 98% coverage of the federal funds spent, as the Federal Transit Cluster is the largest federal program the CTA expends from. As part of this process, we also evaluated the internal controls over compliance with those programs. Based on this testing, I am pleased to report that we do not have any findings on the report. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you. This is our summary of the audit procedures for both the federal and financial audit. And we would like to thank the entire finance department for working with us in a professional manner and providing us all the information required to timely issue all of these audit opinions. At this point, if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Well, I just want to thank you for your work, and we certainly appreciate that. And to our team, we want to commend them and congratulate Jeremy and his team for their work, not just through the audit process, but their overall work with cooperating with you guys to get it done.
We recognize it's no easy task on both ends, so thank you to both sides to help get this through.
Okay. There seems to be no further questions, Chairman. Barclay, so we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is an ordinance amending Ordinance 021-119, approving the fiscal years 2022 through 2026 capital improvement program.
Jeremy?
Thank you. I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer. I'm joined by Michelle Curran, the Vice President for Budget and Capital Finance, which will make the presentation regarding the amended budget.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Michelle Curran, Vice President of Budget and Capital Finance. I'm here today to present an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the 2022 to 2026 Capital Improvement Program, or CIP. In March, the board approved the $3.493 billion amended CIP, and we're now proposing an additional amendment. Late last year, the president signed into law the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and this amendment allows CTA to begin programming the funds for 2022 into the CIP. The funds for the outer years will be included in the 2023 to 2027 CIP to be approved with the budget later this year. As a result of the infrastructure bill, CTA expects to receive an additional $112 million of federal formula funds for 2022, which is an increase of 36%. The additional formula funds will provide funding for important projects, including All Stations Accessibility Program, the Electric Bus Program, continued funding the State of Good Repair projects for the bus and rail fleet, stations and facilities, track and structure, and technology projects, and expansion of the Station Refresh and Renew program. In addition to the new funding, the CIP is also being amended to include an FTA Transit-Oriented Development Discretionary Grant for $800,000 to complete a comprehensive equitable transit-oriented development planning study along a 2-mile stretch of the 95th Street corridor. CTA will work with the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development to complete the study, and the city is also funding the $200,000 local match. The amendment will also realign the CTA bonds recently issued to better meet the timing needs of the projects funded, and it will also repurpose $20 million of prior granted Rebuild Illinois State PAYGO funds for bus maintenance projects. The proposed amendment increases the CIP by $132.7 million, revising the fiscal year 2022 through 2026 CIP to an updated total of $3.625 billion. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I'd just like to say that during the board briefing, and I shared with Jeremy that we certainly appreciated the update on our LETOD study funded by the federal grants addressed in the ordinance. And this is a great initiative and look forward to future updates on the study. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, I'm excited for all of the different components. I also am very excited about the ETOD, so Equitable Transit-Oriented Development component of this work. I believe it is an important piece of really connecting the immediate communities to transit, but also helping communities across our city to come together. So thank you.
I'm excited to hear that there's some of the funds will be flowing back into the ASAP program, because that's exciting. More elevators and more accessibility is always good. Thank you.
Director Jakes? Oh, I'm sorry.
No questions. I'll just co-sign what my colleagues have said. Thank you.
No further questions, Chairman Barkley.
May I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So move. Second.
Okay, we may proceed to number 6, sir.
Our next order of business today is an ordinance authorizing a co-promotional agreement with the City of Chicago through its Department of Assets, Information, and Services.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer, and today I present for your consideration a co-promotional trade agreement with the City of Chicago Department of Assets, Information, and Services, known as AIS. This department, which was previously known as the Department of Fleet and Facility Management, or 2FM, has been a co-promotional partner of CTA since 2006. The total value of the co-promotional trade is just under $400,000, which is a similar amount to prior years. And CTA will provide AIS with interior car cards on bus and rail up to this amount in value. As this is unsold advertising space that CTA is providing, and as printing costs are the responsibility of AIS, there is no cost to CTA to enter into this co-promotional agreement. AIS will provide CTA space on 250 JC2Co managed bus shelters that are located throughout Chicago, a total value equal to the co-promotional trade value. This partnership gives CTA exposure to a larger audience of residents and visitors through the advertising on the city's bus shelters. This also enables the City of Chicago to reach CTA customers with important messages related to city programs and events. This concludes my presentation. I'm glad to answer any questions.
No questions from me, Greg.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions, Greg.
All right, thank you. There's no further questions on this matter, sir.
May I believe to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we may proceed to number 7, sir.
Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing a second amendment to a locker location pilot program with Amazon.com Services LLC to install, operate, and maintain package delivery lockers at designated rail stations.
Good morning. I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer, and today I present for your consideration a second amendment to the current agreement with Amazon, which will extend the pilot period for Amazon delivery lockers and CTA stations until January 16th, 2023. This pilot is intended to test the viability of delivery lockers and CTA stations. It was approved by the Transit Board in June of 2020 for a period of 1 year. In June of 2021, since none of the lockers have been in place for a full year, the board approved extending the pilot through June 2022. During this upcoming extension term, CTA staff will work with Amazon and any other interested vendors to solicit proposals for a longer-term contract to place delivery lockers and CTA stations with the goal of presenting one or more contracts to the CTA board for approval. The lockers provide an amenity to CTA customers who are able to conveniently pick up and return their Amazon packages as part of their CTA trip. The lockers also provide positive benefits to the region by reducing congestion and emissions from delivery vehicles. Amazon is fully responsible for all costs related to the procurement, installation, servicing, and operation of the lockers. During the extended pilot, Amazon will continue to pay CTA a monthly flat fee of $25 per machine per month to reimburse CTA for operating expenses, including the cost of electricity. Amazon will continue to maintain insurance coverage for installing and operating the lockers on CTA property. The lockers offer a range of security and accessibility features, and the CTA has experienced no security issues with lockers on our property. This concludes my presentation, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Jeremy, it's my understanding that after we complete the pilot project, this may actually go out to bid so that other companies can also participate if possible. Am I correct?
That's correct. We'll start undertaking the RFP process for Amazon or others to participate in, and we anticipate bringing back to the board a list of potential applicants there for a full-time rollout of this program in the coming months.
I think this is a value added to our customers, and thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Agree. No further questions.
No further questions.
No questions.
We're finished with questions on this matter, sir.
May I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we can proceed to number 8, sir.
Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing a third amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with Metra and PACE for the link up pass to enhance the program and change the name to the Regional Connect Pass.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. I'm Molly Poppy, Chief Innovation Officer for the CTA, and I'm joined by Jeremy Fine, Chief Financial Officer for the CTA. We're here today to present on the Intergovernmental Agreement, or IGA, for the new Regional Connect Pass developed in partnership with PACE and Metra. As part of the 2022 budget, the board significantly reduced the price of all CTA's existing unlimited ride pass products, including joint passes with CTA and PACE. And the board also eliminated the 25-cent transfer cost between CTA services. At the time, we discussed that those fare changes are an important first step to simplify CTA's fare structure, provide more fare and pass flexibility to adapt to the changing ridership patterns we're seeing in response to COVID, and reduce transfer friction and confusion between interagency fare policies. The new Regional Connect Pass builds on those important fare changes, as well as the strong partnerships between the regional transit agencies of CTA, Metra, and PACE. The Regional Connect Pass is a new multi-agency fare product providing unlimited rides on CTA and PACE exclusively for Metra monthly pass holders. The Regional Connect Pass will replace the current Metra Link Up and PACE Plus Bus. Unlike the Metra Link Up and PACE Plus Bus, the Regional Connect Pass will provide unlimited rides for a month on CT and PACE with no time or day restrictions. The Regional Connect Pass will cost Metro monthly pass holders $30, down from the current $55 of the Metro Link Up. If approved by the board, the new pass will be available for purchase in the Venture app and at select Metro ticket windows on June 20, 2022 for use starting July 1. As the transit landscape continues to evolve in response to the pandemic recovery, CTA, PACE, and Metro continue to work together to identify new and innovative opportunities to ensure public transit remains the most affordable and most convenient way to travel around the region. We ask for your favorable approval of the Regional Connect Pass IGA between CTA, Metro, and PACE. Thank you, and we're happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you, Ms. Poppy. We received a thorough briefing on this program, and I was very impressed with it, and want to commend you and your staff and Jeremy on leading the effort to reach an agreement with the other service boards. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, I anticipate it'll be a really good amenity overall to be able to connect across our different services. So I anticipate it'll be well received. Thank you as well.
I really appreciated that it's more of an agile approach to commuting. So this is, I think, going to be really favorable for our riders because not everybody uses the buses and trains during rush hour anymore. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before you move off this item, I also want to take a moment to thank my peers at both Metro and PACE, Jim Drowinski and Melinda Metzger. This is something that I know that the customers and our stakeholders have been asking for quite some time. I'm pleased that we were able to reach this agreement to create this additional flexibility between our systems that I think is critical towards the future growth of ridership on CTA as well as on Metro and PACE. And I look forward to obviously working collaboratively with my sister agencies as we continue to find more ways to make it easier and more convenient for the residents in the service area to use our system to meet their various commuting and public transportation needs.
Thank you.
It's great to hear that they were receptive and continue to be at the table to come up with different solutions.
Yes, no, they were very receptive from the moment we started talking to them about it. And as you can see, we came up with I think, a very favorable approach to how to collaborate and pull this together. And I think it's an example, which is a point that I like to make from time to time, because I know there's always this perception that there's this, battle going on between CTA, Metro, and PACE in the service area. The truth of the matter is that's not the case. We actually work very closely together. Molly and her team, along with Jeremy and Mike Connolly, can tell you that our staffs meet regularly to talk through and address issues of common concern amongst all of us. And this is just one example of how that sort of plays itself out in a very public and positive way.
I just have one final question. Maybe, I don't know who to direct it to, but would it be great to be able to have one way to pay and get on the train and the bus? I know it's not the case currently. Is that correct?
Yes. So,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead.
So right now we have the unified Venture app. The Venture app does include CTA, Metro, and PACE, but you are correct, Director, that CTA and PACE, we utilize a unified pass product. So we utilize the Venture card and able to tap on and tap off. Metro has a digital ticketing process that is available within the Venture app, and you can use Venture transit value to pay for Metro tickets using a digital ticketing platform. So we are engaged, sort of unified and integrated through the Venture app, but CTA and PACE have the plastic or digital Venture card that you can tap on the system, and Metro has a digital ticketing process.
Thank you.
I think it's also important to point out that for Metro, the issue for them of being able to access or utilize our Venture card is really an infrastructure issue, in that they clearly are not in a position, have not been able to build out the infrastructure, which would cost billions of dollars actually, to accommodate our Venture card and their system because of the way they operate in terms of their fare structure versus the way CTA and PACE operate. It creates a much more bigger challenge for them. But I think, as Molly pointed out, the benefit of technology today is it allows you to kind of work around some of those challenges. And that's why we've been so happy about the app, because it has actually created that type of unified ability to use all three of our systems. Although we recognize there are limitations around using the app as well, particularly for those who are low income and minority, in that they don't necessarily have access to the technology to allow them to use it as easily as they could a card. Those are things we continue to talk about. I know that that's an issue also with the stakeholders in this area, who would like to see, for lack of a better word, a universal card, not just a universal system. And hopefully, as we continue the dialogue, we'll find ways to better integrate those issues going forward.
Thank you.
Greg, let me just chime in for a moment and offer that there are some key things that have been said that really makes me smile as a resident and as a board member, and that is hearing the words collaboration and always having in dialogue what is best for the citizens in general and our Black and brown communities and others specifically. And so I think that this is what continues to make us not only a world-class city, but a world-class transit agency with world-class president and a world-class Molly Poppy, who help us to navigate through these things with technology. So for our president and for Molly and everyone that works with you, thank you. Thank you so much, because these are great synergies that are being created. So this is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
We're finished with all questions or comments.
May I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. We may proceed to number 9, sir.
Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing a sublease to Mclaren Development Partners of a portion of property located at 120 North Racine Avenue.
Morning. I'm Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer. Real estate staff recommends approval of an ordinance authorizing a sublease to Mclaren Development Partners for a portion of property located at 120 North Racine Avenue. Sterling Racine LLC has a master lease agreement for 84,879 square feet on the first and second floors of 120 North Racine. The proposed new sublease is for approximately 465 square feet on the second floor. Sterling Racine will continue to be responsible for all rent and expenses as set forth in the master lease agreement, including a proportionate share of building operating expenses and all applicable taxes and utility fees. Under the terms of the master lease agreement with Sterling Racine, all amendments and subleases require CTA approval, which cannot reasonably be withheld. I'm happy to take any questions on this item.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
All right. There are no further questions, sir.
May I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We may proceed to number 10, sir.
Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing a license agreement with Chicago Public Schools for property at Simeon Career Academy at 8147 South Vincennes Avenue, Chicago, Illinois.
Once again, Bill Mooney. Real estate staff recommends approval of an ordinance authorizing a license agreement with the City of Chicago Board of Education for property at Simeon Career Academy. The license agreement will allow CTA entry to the property for the staging of CTA buses to offer transit services to Simeon Career Academy. CPS and CTA have agreed to a 10-year license agreement set to commence July 1st. There is no fee for this agreement, and either party can cancel it with 30 days notice. I'm happy to take any questions on this item.
Questions?
No questions.
No questions.
None from me.
There's no further questions on this matter, sir.
May I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'm going to proceed to number 11, sir.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing the purchase of primary and excess property insurance coverage for policy year 22-23. Steve Wood.
Morning, Chairman and Directors. This is Steve Wood, Deputy General Counsel in the CTA's Law Department. This is an ordinance authorizing the 2022 to 2023 property insurance policy for the CTA. This policy runs from July to July, and it's renewed every year. Our insurance brokers at Mesereau Alliant and our DBE Paradigm marketed the renewal, and a consortium of international and domestic insurers are providing the CTA with the best combination of coverage and price for this policy. The proposed premium for next year's policy, along with taxes and fees, is approximately $5,450,000, which is an increase of about 9.5% from this year's rates. Rate increases are typically based on three factors: increases in asset values that are covered by the policy, negative claims history, and the state of the insurance market generally. CTA's asset values were up slightly, 1.3% from approximately $7.16 billion to $7.26 billion, but concerns about inflation generally in the market for repair and replacement of damaged assets is influencing the increase for us this year and for all users essentially. The CTA, in terms of claims, has had another clean year, knock wood, free of any claims. So that was a positive in our favor. But the market for rail insurance has remained very hard for the last 5 years in a row, due both to climate-related issues such as numerous wildfires and storms, but also due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which continues to inject substantial uncertainty in the market. This causes insurers to withdraw or limit their capacity, and with less capacity, less competition and raised rates. This is, in addition to the inflation concerns, I think this is probably the principal factor leading to our premium increase this year. We recommend renewal with this consortium, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
We're finished with questions, Chairman Barkley.
May I believe to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Proceed to number 5, sir.
Next order of business today is contract number B1, change order for a roofing contract.
Any questions from any board members?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
May we proceed to B2, sir?
Our next order of business today is contract number B2, a change order for vehicle purchases.
Any questions from any board members?
No questions.
May proceed, sir. B3.
Our next order of business today is contract number B3, a cleaning service contract. No questions.
Questions.
Proceed to B4, sir.
Our next order of business today is contract number B4, a change order for cleaning services contract. No questions.
No questions.
Proceed to B5, sir.
Our next order of business today is contract B5, a change order for a clothing contract.
No question.
No question.
No questions.
May proceed to F1, sir.
Our next order of business today is a contract number F1, a research contract.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
I do have a question. In terms of this research, I know that this has been done outside of our area. Is there any consideration for bringing some of that into the area with qualified people who can do it here as well?
Actually, Chairman, we do also contract with local institutions to research as well. I mean, MIT is a international player and leader in this field, but we also have entered into contract with IIT, University of Illinois Chicago, and other institutions here as well to do work for us. So it is not an exclusive arrangement just with that one institution.
Okay. Thank you.
May proceed to F2, sir.
Our final order of business is contract F2, a change order for an investigation service contract.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
There's no questions on that matter, so we may proceed.
I just have one question.
Sure.
Do we have, is it just one vendor or is it more than one vendor?
For
the investigation services contract.
For these services, it's just the one vendor.
And that's fine, no questions, no further questions.
Proceed to the next item, sir. 12A.
There are no further questions on contracts. May I have leave to place the 7 contracts on the omnibus?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Keys and seconded by Director Lee. Proceed to 12B.
Since there's no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to approve the omnibus and recommend the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Ortiz, second by Director Lee. Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Chairman Barkley?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 4 yes votes, sir.
And finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Ortiz, second by Director Lee. Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman Barkley?
Yes.
The motion passed with 4 yes votes, sir. We are adjourned. Would you like to take a few-minute break or go
Yeah, 5
Recording
minutes.
stopped.
take a few-minute break?
Director Silver can have
We're ready to start the meeting again. Chairman Barkley.
We will now resume our regular board meeting. May I have a motion to resume the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Director Ortiz, second by Director Lee. Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
We have a quorum with that motion passed with 4 yes votes, sir.
We'll proceed in the agenda order with agenda item number 1, public comment. Greg, do we have any registered public comment speakers today?
No, we do not, sir.
Our next order of business is approval of the May board minutes. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of May 11, 2022.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Lee. Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Ortiz,
Yes.
Director Lee,
Yes.
and Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 4 yes votes, sir.
Our next order of business is executive session. It is my understanding, Kent, that there's no executive session today.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. There is no executive session.
We are deferring board agenda item number 5A. So our next order of business is a report of the Committee of Strategic Planning and Service Delivery. I will make that report.
Sir, if you don't have a copy, I can make it.
Please.
The Strategic Planning and Services Delivery Committee met earlier this morning. The committee reviewed an ordinance authorizing implementation of bus route number 4X Cottage Grove Express. The committee approved the ordinance and placed on the omnibus and recommended it for board approval. That concludes the committee report, sir.
Thank you. Our next order of business is a report from the Committee of Finance, Audit, and Budget.
I can make that report. The Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee met earlier this morning. The committee reviewed the finance report and approved the May 11th committee minutes. The committee heard the independent auditor's presentation for fiscal year 2021. The committee reviewed 7 ordinances. An ordinance amending ordinance 021119 approving the fiscal years 2022-2026 capital improvement program. An ordinance authorizing a co-promotional agreement with the City of Chicago through its Department of Assets, Information, and Services. An ordinance authorizing a second amendment to a locker location pilot agreement with Amazon Com Services, LLC, to install, operate, and maintain package delivery lockers at designated rail stations. An ordinance authorizing a third amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with Metra and Pace, with a link-up pass to enhance the program and change the name to the Regional Connect Pass. Ordinance authorizing a sublease to Mclaren Development Partners Limited of a portion of property located at 120 North Racine Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. An ordinance authorizing a license agreement with Chicago Public Schools for property at Simeon Career Academy at 8147 South Vincennes Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. An ordinance authorizing the purchase of primary and excess property insurance coverage for policy year 2022-2023. The committee also reviewed 7 contracts. The committee approved the 7 ordinances and the 7 contracts and placed them on the omnibus and recommended board approval of the omnibus. That concludes the Finance, Audit, and Budget report, sir.
Thank you, Greg. May I now have a motion to approve the omnibus as stated?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Lee. Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Lee?
Yes.
Chairman Barkley?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 4 yes votes, sir.
Our next order of business is a construction report. Bill Mooney.
Good morning again, directors and chairman. I'm here with your monthly construction update. My name is Bill Mooney. I'm your Chief Infrastructure Officer. We'll begin where we normally do, which is our Your New Blue signal project between Jefferson Park and O'Hare. The project remains on budget and tight to schedule. We've completed a really significant milestone in the path of completion of this project, and that's the cutover of O'Hare Terminal. Over the last couple of months, I've shown you work going on there. This is kind of a critical point for us, and our partners in operations really made this happen for us and worked to give us the windows and the opportunities to phase in this work and really properly cut it over. And it was a pretty significant effort. It's an underground subway system, so being able to get access and be able to facilitate that work was challenging, but this was really a point where we hit stride on the project, and they really did a great job concluding that, and we're running on all brand new equipment there now, which is a huge thing. And we marched to the last leg of the project now towards Rosemont. So here's some photos. Rosemont is where we have our yard and shop just north of Rosemont Station. And so there's two ends of it, Rosemont West and Rosemont East. And the work right now is focused on Rosemont West. And this is similar to a lot of the work you've seen on the right of way where we're pulling in cable through various duct banks for the new installation of signal equipment. Next slide. Here's some more of that cable. You can kind of see the tight windows of work frame that we're working between tracks here. Next slide. And here's the new house. So in the background, you can see that new house in the background. And I showed you that being flown in last month. And here's the new power system that supports that house that's fully connected and running kind of the power for that new house as we move to this cutover in this upcoming month. And you'll see some of that coming up in the next report as we'll be going through that commissioning end for about another 40 days or so. And then we'll be moving kind of the last piece, which is Rosemont East. Next slide, please. Oh, and here's another, some of the infrastructure work that goes around this, which was actually changing out ties that support some of the equipment that gets installed on the right of way. In this case, a trip, which is what helps protect kind of the train movements. Next slide, please. So this is our Irving Park Station escalator and canopy replacement. This is kind of moving towards a really exciting point as we reopen the Irving Park entrance and put that escalator in service. And we started the installing of the roof there at Irving Park, which is very exciting as well, and the canopy. So next slide, please. Here's some photos of that. So I've shown you over the last couple of months the demolition of the escalator and the parts going in. So here's kind of that as we move to completion of that installation, that more finished looking product. Next slide. Here is rooftop level, platform level at the station. They are in the process of removing the last pieces of the old canopy, which were protecting the escalator installation, and swapping them out for the new pieces of canopy. Next slide. And here's some of that kind of canopy installation working from the express lane directly adjacent during nights. They're installing what they call J channels. So this translucent blue canopy that you've seen similar installations at Wilson and Garfield and Jefferson Park is being installed here. It really brightens up the station. It's a really great refresh, but the connection point is this little channel that the translucent blue pieces slide into and lock into place. So that's what they're installing. Next slide. So this is our traction power upgrades for Kenvol, Edmonds, and Sacramento substation. We are through the commissioning on kind of lineup number 2, which is kind of we talk about the pieces of equipment together in a row. And so this is actually the first row that we've done, and we've started the work on lineup number 1. So next slide. So here's some of that commissioning kind of with lineup number 2 and final terminations for that piece of equipment to go into service. Next slide. Here's the rectifier. So this is the piece that converts the system from AC to DC being shipped into the site. Next slide. This is our non-revenue vehicle maintenance facility. We're really excited to be in the ground on the site now. This has been kind of a long process through permitting and stuff, but we've got our underground permits and we've moved into kind of the underground phase of the work. And we'll be moving forward and showing you some of the photos of that work. So this really, just to remind everyone, kind of the goal of this project is we're building this new revenue vehicle maintenance facility this is for our work equipment. So we have over 100 pieces of equipment that do work on the railroad itself to maintain it. This is all railborne equipment. It needs a specialized shop to kind of support that maintenance of that equipment itself. So this is kind of the building as it is envisioned today. It's a very handsome building that really enhances the site as a whole, which has historically been a storage yard. Next slide. And here's some of that work. So you can see here on the left, the excavators, we're excavating out the underground stormwater system that was existing on the storage yard site. Ultimately, we actually have a new water retention system that's being built as part of the system that exceeds the goals of the sustainability ordinance and actually will benefit the neighborhood as a whole, as we actually will be storing on site to more stormwater as required for us and help the drainage system as a whole during heavy weather and those 100-year storms. Next slide. And here's kind of a couple other examples as they've started to excavate out those underground structures, and then they backfill in. And then in the upcoming months, you'll start to see some of that structural work that you see on some of these other projects we do with caissons and H-piles and things that will be the foundational pieces of the building. Next slide. So this is a new project this month that we wanted to be able to bring to the board. This is our traction power upgrades for Berry and Damon substations and a new tie house at Canal. This is part of our capacity expansion for the Blue Line. So one of the things that we've been restricted on being able to run more capacity on the O'Hare branch of the Blue Line is the ability to have enough power to support those trains constances. And this project's been in planning for a bunch of years. It was approved last summer by the board, and it's been kind of going through its validation phase of design and permitting. And we are receiving our underground permits and starting work on site. This will be for 2 new substations, one at Barrie and one at Damon on land that CTA owns. And then what we call a tie house, which is where we share power between a bunch of sources and just redistribute it where it's needed at the moment in time. And that will actually be in the subway system. So I've got a couple renderings here to show you the new. So this is the new substation at Barrie. So the designer of record is T.Y. Lin. Their contractor for us is John Burns Construction. It's a $58 million construction contract. The architect on the project was Carol Ross Barney. This is really an amazing building, and it really is visionary for us and a change kind of in path from where we've historically been in recent years on substations. These are integrated into the community very deeply. And so we're really trying to be thoughtful about the architectural pieces here. And Carol and her team are really great about that. The upper floor of this is actually a glass with terracotta wrapped building, and there'll be a very low level light at night, no even less than like a street light, but you'll be able to actually kind of vision into what this heavy equipment goes on in the facility. And on the foreground there is our kind of architectural enhancements that we worked with the community to identify symbols that the community felt were representative of the community that are being etched into the steel gates of the facility. And that's kind of the public art piece of this project. And here's some of the work going on site. So they've started some of the underground investigation. This is actually over a portion of the subway system and off on the edge. And so they've actually had to go in and open up the earth a little bit just to verify some of the existing structures and locations so they can start to plan for those underground permitting. Next slide. And this is the Mate substation. So this is near Damon on the blue line. It's directly adjacent to the station there. And again, this is a very unique substation for us. Carol Ross Barney is the architect of record again. It has a courtyard that faces the public way there that will actually have a commissioned piece of public art on the exposure of it. It will be the first time we're installing public art on a substation like this. It's a really exciting piece. I can't wait to share with you in the upcoming years the artist's vision on this. But it also has a glass window upstairs as well that allows people on the platform at Damon to get a little bit of a sneak peek into the hidden mystics behind what makes a railroad run. And it's kind of a unique facility in that sense. And similarly, here's some pictures of the underground preparatory work. So here they are doing deep soil investigations. This is identifying how deep those foundational structures are going to have to go to get to the suitable soil or bedrock in some cases. Next slide. And here's another photo of that work occurring. So, next slide. And then the last piece of this is the Canal tie house. So what we're going to end up doing here is we're actually going to be sharing some of the power that's available from a substation that supports the Green Line by beefing up that substation and routing it down to the subway at Canal. And so here they're doing some of the soil investigation to be able to beef up what we call Haymarket Substation, which is actually near our headquarters. And we'll be beefing up the equipment in that substation to be able to support the Canal's tie house and the subway. So here's some of the, again, that underground work that goes on in preference for that. My next project is our Jackson Park Track and Structures Improvements Project. This will be the last time I report on this project. This is a project I'm really proud to be able to share with everyone. This is our in-house forces that do our track maintenance, repair, and internal construction, as well as our structural maintenance. They do yeoman's work being able to maintain a 100-plus-year-old system, oftentimes kind of under traffic in the general community with very little notice or complaint. And they did a pretty significant renewal here on an aged piece of asset we had, and it went really well and was executed really flawlessly over kind of the last year that I've been able to share this with you. So the structure work is completely completed. I showed you kind of some of the last pieces of that last month, and they've just finished up the last piece of track work we're going to be scoping in here, which is special work that facilitates the moves between what we call where that non-revenue shop is being built and the Green Line structure. So we've got some photos of this finishing work. So here is some of the work that of that special track work. These are really long ties. They're like 20 feet long, and they go under multiple tracks at a time. So it's been a really kind of complicated piece of work to do. Next slide. As I've kind of shown you from the previous months, we've been able to work out of the yard a little bit. That's directly adjacent there. That's allowed us to facilitate this work, but you get a sense of how long those ties are and how they're being kind of fed in from the side to minimize that impact to service. Again, this is kind of an amazing group of men and women that do work for us that we oftentimes don't really get to celebrate kind of their hard efforts. And I really was glad to be able to share a little bit of that with you. Next slide. And my last project is our Refresh and Renew update. So since we last met, we've completed additional stations. We've completed the work at Dempster Skokie, which was in progress last time we talked, as well as Chicago on the Red Line, 35th, Bronzeville on the Green Line, and Kedzie on the Brown Line. And we're currently working at Cermak Chinatown and UIC Halstead with the full renewals. And we've been plowing through the painting program. The SBE painting contractors are working hard, and we're down to actually only the recently awarded contracts. So we've completed 53 of the committed 92 stations. So I have some photos of kind of this work that's been going on. Next slide. So a few years ago, we did some work at a couple of the Congress stations, and they were really successful, where we actually got above that touch level surface and got into the canopy structure and really got a good scraping and coat of paint and cleaning on there. Here's 35th and Bronzeville. And I think you really can see the difference, that appearance there. It's really time intensive work, but the crews that worked on this, again, internal CTA crews, really did a great job here, and it makes just a huge world of difference to customer experience. Next slide. And this is 35th Bronzeville on the outside. So I've oftentimes liked to highlight that the walk-up appearance that you see on the station, right? So this is our impact on the community, even outside the surroundings. So on the left, you see kind of the faded aging of that paint that was existing on the station and what that refreshed look looks like on the right. So this is right by IIT there. And as you come up on that station, it really makes it warm, and it makes it inviting, and makes it feel safe. Next slide. So here's some of the work at Skokie Dempster. Last month, I showed you some of the exterior work on the platform. This is our typical kind of lighting upgrade. You can see the difference between the LED lighting on the right and the traditional T8 lighting on the left, and what the brightness level and clean look it makes. Next slide. And here's the outside. It really is a night and day difference in that LED. And as we've tried on all the stations, we look at the footprint around the station and try and light up the area around the station. So as our customers do approach the station, they've got clear paths of travel that really helps brighten up those areas and really, again, makes the station feel welcoming and safe. Next slide. Here's some examples of the painting program. So again, the SP contractors we have on board have done a great job. I think this green change out from the left, which is from the 1990s, it's been touched up a couple times to the fully refreshed green on the right, and that deep forest green, just really pops at you and really lightens up, really makes an impact on that appearance. Next slide. And again, this is kind of those walk-up frontage again. So, these are the stairs at Pulaski and the Green Line. Pulaski and the Green Line was actually one of the first stations we did in the pilot of Refresh and Renew in 2019. And so here's kind of a pass around, 3 years later, to give it kind of a full update on that painting. Again, just kind of another representation of the painting here. Here's Laramie just down from Pulaski, and kind of the stairwell cleanup there. Big difference it makes. And with that, I'll pause and take any questions before we turn it over to Chris.
Bill, I have a question. First, great job with the before and after. The debris that gathers under the steps and things of that nature, is that the responsibility of CTA or is that the city that has to clean that up?
So typically our rail station janitors, as part of their footprint of cleaning in the station, will go through and sweep up the area directly around the footprint of the stairs on street level. Anything that kind of goes back from that on the frontage is really, they usually look to the property owner that the street frontage is on to police the area in front, and then we go to Streets and Sand and CDOT for that. When we do these station renewals, we work very closely with Don Bonds' staff on the cleanliness side, and they come in and help do deep power washing and cleaning, and we go in and do some pretty big debris removal as part of it. We're pretty good at keeping up with the footprints that we're responsible for, and then when we kind of come in and do these imprints, we try and get a little bigger, and just that walk up space, and just for there, let's kind of clean the area up a little bit more.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, Bill. In terms of the actual garbage pickup, that's the city's responsibility, am I correct?
Yes.
The can. Because, sometimes we do see...
So, Chairman Barclay, I would just add that we do have private garbage service. So as most large kind of entities do, we do pay for tipping fees to have a private vendor come in and dump at our facilities in lots of cases. So the street cans that are on the corners that the city of Chicago handles, they are Streets and Sand, but like our garbage tends to go to a private dumpster that then is picked up separately.
Because I think from time to time I see an overflow of garbage right at the station, some of the stations, and just wondering who's responsible for that, just, there at the station.
Yeah, the cans that are at street level on the stations are Streets and Sand cans.
Okay.
Anything inside the station or on the platform is us.
Okay. All right.
I think on that point, that makes a big difference on the experience, how clean and how well picked up all the garbage is. So I think that was also the intended message on there. so I agree. I have two comments, perhaps light, but important. I noticed or I heard the architect's name, and it was the same architect twice. Was that a package deal, or did they just happen to do a good bid for both?
So the design package for the Damon Canal substations was one design package. So the designer of record, the engineer of record is a firm called T.Y. Lin. So when we released the design package, it went out to T.Y. Lin. And the architect that they subbed to was Carol Ross Barney. And so Carol Ross Barney's firm did the design work for both of those substations as part of that package.
And I assume there were other minority-owned businesses in that package or those packages.
Every design GEC task order director has a DB goal, just like our construction projects, separate from the construction goal. And so there would be DB subcontractors doing various design elements to those packages, yes.
Okay, thank you. Last question. I noticed, and because you highlighted as well, that some of the renovations, this is a design question, were done in green, some of them were done in white. Are we sticking to a theme or a sort of palette that we're going across as we're renovating, or are we kind of taking each station on its own design and mode and color palette?
So most of the stations in the refresh and renewal are just refreshing kind of the existing color points. We don't often shift the palette. So if the station was designed with a color palette, so the green line stations in the 1990s were done with a color palette that made most of the base surfaces white edges, and then the accent railings and grid systems green. And so what we've been doing with the vendor is just having them scrape and refresh that painting. We do typically have a standard that we use white for most of our base surfaces. We have actually shifted in some of the subway stations to a gray because it helps manage some of the dust environment there. It makes it a little more easier to maintain. And things like garbage cans and some of those other touch surfaces, we actually make black because they are a little more desirable in that appearance maintenance standpoint. So we're generally not shifting color palettes and choice here. We're just kind of refreshing what's already there as the existing historical color palettes.
I would encourage some kind of one for bulk purchases. I know if we stick to one color, that's usually less expensive. And also, I think if we want to think about branding, those are critical components. Along the blue lines, I see a lot of sharp, very modern renovations, and across other lines, I see, other palettes and colors. So just food for thought. I think it helps to have and enforce a branding, and color is an easy way of doing that. So it's just more of a recommendation as we keep going. How do we think about that thoughtfully? Because I think it does improve the experience of every rider and our image as well.
And I would agree with you holistically, Director, on that. And you'll find that the palettes kind of are color driven by line. So the green line stations, their accent color tends to be green, and it is a very specific coded green. So we only use one green, and that's so that we only stock the one green that goes on the green line stations. And the brown line stations are similarly brown, and the red line stations have a similar accent to red, and the blue line stations have a similar accent to blue. It's a very specific color code for that purpose.
Thank you.
I would add, Director, that we have in the past done that type of sort of, I'm not quite sure what the word is for it, but standardization of station elements as a way. I think, in my mind, I think of someplace like Washington, D.C. and WMATA as a very strict, signage, palette, very strict, architectural palette that they apply to all of their stations, no matter what. That is always a little bit challenging in a system of our age because our stations are so unique. And as you know, some stations are historic in nature and are actually restored to the historic level. So, that they may not follow any of the palettes that we might apply generally to our stations across the board. But I think as a general matter, I do agree with your comment that to the extent that we can provide commonality to the experience from station to station, then that makes it easier for our customers to utilize our service. And where we can, we need to really figure out, how we amplify that as much as possible. So I don't disagree at all with your recommendation, and certainly staff will continue to work on areas that we can standardize to make it easier for our customers to use our system regardless of where they're entering or exiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
One quick question, or well, first a comment. I love all the refresh, the before and after photos. This is really nice to see, especially going into the summer where ridership's going to be up. Wanted to ask, how often are we refreshing and renewing? Like, is each station looked at, like every year? You mentioned something from the 90s,
So we are trying to get into a full, what I would call full refresh and renew, which is where we get in with our trades and do kind of holistic repairs across. So we do break fix on a daily basis. So as items become defective in stations, they're inspected, they're identified, and we repair them. Then we're trying to get in every 5 years and do kind of a holistic repair of each of the stations, where we go in kind of with the station blitz effort, where we upgrade the lighting, we hit the painting, we do other repairs that are structural, like the tactile edges or roof repairs or things like that you see kind of more holistically as I'm talking about them. We've been supplementing that program as part of our reopening effort with the SB painting contracts, and we think it's been a pretty successful program, and we're working kind of at the direction of President Carter to look at ways to kind of incorporate that in the core program, so that we would be working to kind of do these renewals on a 5-year basis, and then supplementing in that time period with a fresh coat of paint somewhere in the midlife. So maybe around 2.5 or 3 years in that cycle, we'd be coming in with another contract to get that fresh coat of paint. The painting takes a lot of beating. Its exposure to the elements and to the customer use really kind of shows that. But as you can see in these photos, it makes a big difference. So being able to kind of come in every couple of years and do that painting is valuable.
Great, thank you.
That was sort of my question with the white. It's not very forgiving at all. And as soon as you put it up, it's going to get dirty with all of the elements. So, I can think of 5 other colors that might be a little bit better and keep our presence that much tighter. But I'm sure there's a team looking at that.
No, it's funny you should mention that, because as I was coming from the airport last night, I was having the same thought as I was looking at some of our system and looking at the paint and how it had deteriorated. And in my mind, I was thinking, maybe we need to consider some other colors or something like that, or something that might resist rust a little bit more and stuff, because to your point, Director Lee, from a customer experience standpoint, if it looks well maintained, you feel safer, you feel more comfortable. And that's not to say it isn't well maintained, but in a harsh condition like Chicago with winters and everything else you deal with, the painting does take a beating, and it is one of the more visible aspects of the maintenance of our system. That I do want to continue to keep working on ways in which we can improve it. So we are open to suggestions around all of this, and certainly Bill and his crew work very hard to keep up as best as possible. And as he indicated, we have ramped up the painting and other regimens for our stations in the recent years to try to basically sort of keep up with just the natural deterioration that occurs over time at any station. But that obviously does impact the overall image of CTA and the way we want to be perceived to the public.
Thank you. No further comments.
Okay, we're finished with Bill then, Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Bill. We'll now call on Chris Bushell and Juan Pablo Prieto to make their RPM and diversity presentations.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, President, Councilor, Directors. I'm your RPM lead, Chris Bushell. The RPM Phase 1 Design Build contract continues on budget and tight to schedule. If we go to the next slide, we have seen a lot of work in the 2 major segments of the project. That is the red-purple bypass, which is fundamentally a structural project and modernization of existing structures in the area of Belmont. We're also seeing significant work in the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr segment. This, of course, is also some new bridges, some innovative bridges, at least for Illinois and for the CTA, as well as 4 new accessible stations, which will be constructed in the lee side of the next phase of the bridge that we're building on the west side in this particular segment. If we could go to the photographs. So in RPB, we are doing demolition of existing structures, some of which are approximately 100 years old, and replacing them with a modern structure. These structures have obviously served well, but are at the end of their service life, and will be replaced by more modern structures for the next 100 years. Next picture. And we're quite literally, as we demolish the existing elevated steel structure, we're in the process of replacing it with modern concrete structures and really laying the foundation for the new tracks in this area, quite literally in this case, with a new caisson or drilled shaft. This is our way of doing foundations. We drill down, as Bill suggested earlier, either to suitable soils or to bedrock, both of which can be, in this particular area, 50 to 70 feet down. And then once we put that hole in the ground, we put a rebar cage, as you can see, gets lowered into it, and then we fill that with concrete, and that's really the caisson that provides the basis for the structure. So if we go to the next slide. I'll note that currently most foundations are not quite that deep. They are certainly stable and safe, but they don't reach down that deeply, and they won't have that long of a service life. So the new foundations are overall a significant improvement to us for the next 100 years. In the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr segment, we're also installing drilled shafts or caissons. You can see the process here in the photograph of the drill starting to go down into the ground. It inserts various casings in the ground until we get to the required depth. And then, as I said before, we would ultimately put a steel rebar cage into it and then pour concrete. Next. Once that concrete is finished and cured, then we put the column and the column cap in place. You can see the pictures of that occurring in the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr segment. And next slide. And then kind of the result after that, we put segments on top of that. These are pieces that look a little bit like a kind of your backbone, if you will. And they're put in place and then between the columns, and then they're post-tensioned to provide the strength required to put a railroad on top of them. You can see sort of a contrast between the newer segmented box girder bridge on the right and then the old tracks, existing tracks on which we're still providing service as we're doing construction. On the left here. So this is, we're rebuilding this first section on the east side of the tracks in this particular area. Then as we come in and we do the same bridges on the west side, that's when we'll be constructing the stations, installing new platforms, elevators, escalators, etc. Next. And then of course we have an extensive public outreach effort. We meet on a regular basis with various members of the community. We tend to lead through the aldermen. They have very good communications networks out into their communities and business organizations within those areas, but we don't exclusively do that. We also reach independently out to various other stakeholders. You can see we have weekly red purple bypass project updates for the 44th ward. And then also for the 48th ward in the area of the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr segment, 44th in the area of the red purple bypass. We have also, at the request of Alderman Osterman in the 48th ward, we have had conversations as he is planning for the future of his ward. We've also done transit-oriented development studies in this corridor, reflecting the desires of the community in terms of what sort of development they'd like to see. We participated in one event recently, a visioning open house event, sort of revisiting that transit-oriented design, taking feedback on it. That was a very successful session, and thank you very much for the planning department was there helping us out with that as well. Central Lakeview neighbors, project updates on any construction or impacts to service that may impact that group. We have virtual office hours as well as actual office hours in our Broadway project office. We had a great field trip that some kids from the Gowdy School won a contest to name our gantry. And we had a great field trip out there and some pizza for the kids to actually see the gantry with their name on it. and then other sorts of events with various business organizations. The State of Uptown annual luncheon we attended to. So that's my update on the project and outreach. And now I'll turn it over to Juan Pablo Prieto and to talk about our workforce and DBE, SBE efforts. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning, directors. Juan Pablo Prieto, Director of Diversity Programs. Diversity continues to meet with the contractor monthly to discuss DBE and workforce outreach and compliance. We also continue to send out opportunities from the prime to the DBE community so they're aware of the trade packages and how to submit their bids. We also send open career opportunities with the prime and their subs to our workforce partners, Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership and Hire 360, so they can refer interested and qualified candidates that meet our workforce goals. As of May 31st, DBEs have been awarded over $225 million between the design and construction packages. 71 unique DBE firms, 27 of those are new to CTA. On the workforce side, as of May 31st, 1,473 unique individuals have worked over 740,000 labor hours and earned over $42 million through the trade labors on the design build contract. That concludes my portion of the report. Happy to answer any questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Our next order of business is new business. Greg, is there any new business?
No, sir.
There's no further business to come before the board. May I have a motion to adjourn Chicago Transit Board meeting of June 8th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Ortiz, seconded by Director Lee. Director Jakes?
Yes.
Director Ortiz?
Yes.
Director Lee? Yes. Chairman Barkley?
Yes, and thank you, Greg, April, Kent, Dorval, and your staff we had some creative this month, so thank you to all of you that put extra time to get this done. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Director Lee, you're stuck with us now.
Welcome again. Anywhere.
Greg, did you say meeting adjourned? You know, I have to hear those words.
Yes, the motion passes with 4 yes votes and the meeting is adjourned.
All right.
Recording
Thank you.
stopped.